So I'm going to kick off by talking about creativity. So my talk is going to be a bit more, there we go, a bit more focused on marketing, a bit more focused on creative ideas, but hopefully you will also learn about a methodology called Google Venture Sprints. Hands up who has ran a Google Venture Sprint or been part of one? Okay, about a third, cool. Neil works for CreateFuture, so yeah, hope so. Okay, so as I go through this talk, I will be, hopefully you'll learn something about Google Venture Sprints, but what I'm also going to do is interject it with hacks of how to use this methodology for creative ideation. Because we've been doing this for, a couple of years now, so we've learned what works, we've learned what sometimes doesn't work, and some helpful tips as well that you can throw in there. And I've got a clicker, which is awesome. Oh, it's gone small. Okay, so a little bit about us, CreateFuture. So we help adventurous brands imagine, explore, and create their future, which is a lovely line. But really, we use design thinking in brand and marketing, product innovation, and helping teams to be better marketers and do better marketing. So what we're going to talk about today is very much one of our core tools, our core way of working. We set the business up, as Nathan said, to do things a little bit differently. And one of the reasons that we really like this way of working is because it addresses a lot of the issues that we were seeing in the various businesses that we've worked in over our illustrious careers of more years than we'd probably care to mention. Things took ages, so projects would take months, usually months, sometimes years, and we wanted to work a little bit faster. So we could see all these, challenges, and we decided that the only way we were going to fix that was to start our own business and do it ourselves. So that's what we did. So there's a number of ways that we think that working in sprints is a great way. So get more. So within client teams, and in fact, most of the people here are from businesses, from brands, you've got great talented people in your teams already. And often what happens, certainly in the past, was that you would be outsourcing the work that you were doing to agencies or to consultancies. And you weren't getting to, make the most of the talent that you have in your team, in your business. So we think that working in this way, in this collaborative way, gets more from the team and talented people that you've got. And it means that you need to spend less with your agencies as well. We believe that you can break things faster. So focus on the hardest part of the problem first, give that your full attention, break the hardest part, and then you can move on to the rest. So rather than try and boil the ocean with an enormous project, then focus on the one thing that's causing the most pain or the thing that's going to add most value so that you can add that value quickly. Now, clearly this wouldn't work for a Lloyd-style, 2-year transformation program, but it works for most of the things that come up on a month-to-month basis. Having fun. So this is our mantra: collaborative, fast, and fun. Often, you're not going to have fun in what you're doing, and we think that fun works. So if you're working client side and you are, writing briefs and managing budgets and managing suppliers, it's probably not most people's idea of fun. But by working on creative problems together with the talented people in your team and with a little extra bit of help from talented people out with your team, then hopefully you'll have a little bit of fun. So, is there a shortcut to great ideas? There's a bit of a myth that great ideas come to you in the shower. It does happen. Or you have to hire Don Draper. Who wouldn't want to have Don Draper around? But those are the kind of traditional ways of having great ideas. I don't believe that those are the only ways that you can make it happen. When I did this on Tuesday, Dave Ward, our creative director, was in the room as well, so I got to poke fun at him because he's our creative director, so that he can't take all the glory and the credit anymore. There is a very structured way of doing this. So this is Google Venture Sprints. It was developed by the team who help businesses that Google Ventures invest in to solve the problems that are holding those businesses back. So none of this is new. If you read the books by a guy called Jake Knapp, who Nathan had the pleasure of meeting when he was out in LA. And he's even taller than you. It's really they call it the greatest hits of a lot of the methodologies that are used by businesses. But it's grounded in design thinking. And what they came up with was this repeatable process, which therefore makes it efficient, and you can train people to do it. Monday to Friday, where you basically start with defining a problem, you come up with some great ideas inspired by experts, inspired by the way other people have solved the problem. You storyboard it out, you make something to test it with real users. And at the end of the week, then you have a way forward. And I'm going to talk a bit more about those way forward. So it's by the book. If you haven't already got it, it's brilliant. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk you through each of these days so you know what you would do if you were to run a Google Venture Sprint. I'm also going to talk a little bit then about how we've found that each of those days, what you can do if you are looking for more creative or perhaps more marketing and campaign-led ideas. Okay, and I've got my handwritten notes as well, just to keep me right. So first things first, before you begin, like any project, the setup is really, really important. So it's worth spending quite a bit of time up front getting things organized. Practical stuff is you need a team, you need a room, and you need a week. The week bit, we can come on to that because it's not strictly true. But you definitely need a team. You need to identify your team. And that's going to be a mix of people from the client, and it's going to be a mix of people from whoever's helping you to facilitate. The room bit's important. You really want to be in the same room for the entire time. The reason for that is you're going to end up putting lots of things on the walls. So there'll be lots of Post-it notes, there'll be lots of maps. And it creates this mental kind of model that everybody starts to become quite familiar with, and it means that you don't have to remember all the information. So by having everything on the wall, it kind of shortcuts problem solving because you don't need to try and recall everything. Where we've done it, where we've had to move rooms, big organizations, it's hard to get a meeting room for 5 days. So where we have had to move rooms, you can get the magic whiteboard stuff. And you literally, if you use that instead, and you can then take it and recreate it in a different space. It takes a little bit of extra work, but it works well enough. If you're running one of these, especially in a business that isn't used to working in this way, isn't used to working in an agile way, isn't used to working in a fast way, or being very much kind of party to this creative process, you need to get people on board. So you need to get people comfortable with how you're going to work. There'll be some stakeholders, so it's senior stakeholders or people that are going to be part of the session that might be quite scared. We had one project we worked on where we had a mutiny in day 2 with quite a senior marketeer who just was not comfortable that they were going to have to, I guess, be exposed and come up with ideas as part of this process. And we got over it, and in the end, they loved it. But it was coming from a place of fear, right? And we're all human, so definitely get people on board at an emotional level, but also get the stakeholders, more senior stakeholders, comfortable with what you're going to do. And it's especially when you get to the decision making, because there are decisions that need to be made. And if you don't have somebody that's willing or able to make decisions, then you're going to have a problem. Again, we've had that situation before where the product owner has not been comfortable making a decision, and it caused more problems than an over-ambitious decision maker. So definitely get everybody bought into the process, everybody comfortable with what they're going to do if they're not used to working with it, even right down to talking them through the days, like literally, this is what we're going to do in the morning, and this is what we're going to do in the afternoon, and you're going to have time to check your emails, but you're not going to get to use your laptops. Really practical stuff. Okay, so that's before you even start. So day 1, which if you were running it literally by the book would be a Monday, you start by mapping out the problems. The whole day is about getting what do you want to solve? What's the problem you want to solve? What's the question you want to answer? It's about getting all the blockers out. So again, that's good to get that out up front, because you'll have potentially people in the room who have already decided what the solution is, decided why it's not going to work, or just generally think of all the reasons why it's not going to work. Let everybody get that out of their system. Get it on the Post-it notes, get it up on the wall, and then you can focus on moving forward in a positive way with that all literally out on the table. So mapping is important. This is it's gone a bit smaller, but yeah, this is actually a customer journey map, and this is what you would do in the morning. And this is one from Expedia. So this is a company, we work with Expedia, the travel company. And this particular one, as you can see, that there's travelers and friends and the internet and Expedia, so the actors on the left-hand side. And then you're literally mapping this. This was a journey about booking a holiday, this specific example, booking a holiday to the UK. Don't want to have too much detail. We want to keep it reasonably simple, because of what this is, the purpose of doing this is to find opportunities. So if you're doing this with something that's a bit more marketing, a bit more creative, you're probably looking for opportunities to engage. You're looking for perhaps gaps where we're not talking to people. If you were looking at something that was more of a digital journey, something that you knew wasn't working, you'd probably be looking for pain points, places where the journey's broken. But with creative ideas, it tends to be more opportunity. And I know there's some people in the room that have, I'm looking at Keely, who are used to doing these on an epic scale. But I think often it's the trick is to keep it quite simple, actually, and not go into too much detail, because it is tempting. I mean, we've done it, and you put in more than you need. Okay. The other thing you do at this stage is to bring in experts. Again, this might be something that a business isn't used to, bringing the customer in at this stage, the consumer, and getting them to review what you've done. I mean, this is literally day one, and to say, no, I wouldn't do that. That's not how I book a holiday. Or, no, I wouldn't talk to my friend here. I would talk to my friend here. Or I would never look at Expedia at this point. I would always look at Skyscanner. So getting that feedback, bringing in people from the wider business like compliance or legal or IT usually, and get them involved in the process, give them the opportunity. So one, you get the benefit of their experience and their knowledge, but you also get them involved in the process. So whatever you come up with, they're going to feel like they've had a say, which is always helpful. Another tool that we've used when we've been looking maybe at more opportunities to engage, maybe more brand ideas, is to use a CX loop. Is it McKinsey? Yeah, it's a McKinsey tool originally. So they call it an infinity loop. So you're kind of doing this, but you're spinning it out so that you then have a second loop, which is more about loyalty and advocacy. And that's actually a really good way of then thinking, well, if you're trying to market to somebody, then that advocacy piece is really important, because you want people to talk about what you've sold to them. And we do a lot of work with Penguin Random House. So with books, that second piece is really important, because actually once somebody's bought a book, they're experiencing the book, they're reading the book, they might be sharing the book, and you want them to buy another book. So it's actually thinking of that experience loop. So that's another good tool to use. All right, how might we's? So this is, again, another tool you can use actually in any workshop. How might we's are a way of capturing notes from the group in a really structured and consistent way. So that is literally how might we, HMW. So rather than everybody taking their notes in their notebook and that just then living in their notebook, if everybody's capturing notes, questions, thoughts in this format, so one note, one thought per post-it note, and putting it at one dedicated place on the wall, then what you get is this. One, it forces you to think positively. It forces you to think of an opportunity. And Ben's going to be talking a little bit more about kind of how we think and how we give feedback impacts on the design process. What it does as well is it allows you to then see patterns, because you can move the post-its around and you can start to see themes that come up. So it means that you've got more of this kind of group hive mind, as opposed to everybody just having their own personal notes in their notebook, which then never see their light of day again. Day two. So day two is all about getting inspired and then coming up with ideas. So the first thing you do on day two they call them lightning demos. So this is really about everybody going and finding examples of where other people have solved the problem in a similar way, or in a different way completely. If you're looking at something that's maybe more kind of digital, a digital journey or a product, you might look at your competitors. So you might look at other companies that are doing the same thing and looking at how they've done it. So let's say it was an application journey for a bank. You might go and look at how other people are doing application journeys. You might go and look at how other companies that also have an application process are doing application journeys. If you're doing more creative or marketing-led ideas, you're trying to also tap into the emotional kind of reaction you want people to have, the triggers. So how have other people done something similar? How have they made people change the way they think about things, or how have they, how have we made people feel nostalgic? And that really then broadens out the examples that you're looking at. But that's really fun. It's probably my favorite part of the week. And you're capturing it. You get somebody to be your scribe. So you nominate somebody to actually, for each example, you draw a little diagram. And you can tell that Dave did that one because it's actually drawn pretty nicely. But sometimes I do it, and it's not as nice, but it's still as effective. Yeah. It doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be somebody that's a designer who does that bit. Again, it's all about capturing it so that everybody can come back to it. Then in the afternoon, you move into the ideation process. And usually at this point, this is what happens. Everybody starts to panic because they're actually going to have to come up with something. And people say, well, I'm not creative. I can't draw. That's not me. If you can do one of those, that's beautiful, then you can go through this process. You always think that you're not going to come up with something, and you always do. If not 1, 2, or even 3. When we're running these for campaign ideas, we've had up to 40 ideas come up from the team. So sometimes your problem is you've got too many rather than too few. Okay. This part of the process is very structured. So it's not just, okay, come up with an idea and everybody has to magically make that happen. You go through this over a couple of hours, this process, and the facilitator will be guiding everybody through it, literally with a timer, so that everybody stays on time. And the end result is that you get this solution sketch. So this is one from the Expedia project, so it's the Great American Block Party. And all it is 3 Post-it notes and some notes, enough so that somebody can get the concept, the idea behind it. I think the other thing to know at this point is it's very much done individually. So it's done often a lot in silence, and that's quite good because people who are maybe more introverted or quieter get the opportunity to really focus on it. Maybe people who are a bit more distracted and a bit more extrovert actually get the opportunity to just focus on one thing. So it works really, really well. And it means everybody's also contributing equally. Right. Deciding. So at this stage, the group decides on what they think answers the brief, basically. So that at this stage, it should be reminding people, what question are we trying to answer? What problem are we actually trying to solve? Not just what we think is cool or nice. So remind everybody at this stage, like, okay, let's go back to the question we're trying to answer. So the group gets sticky dots, and they literally put the sticky dots on the pieces of paper that are all over your wall at this stage. And you get a heat map, basically, a heat map of what the group thinks is most valuable in terms of a solution. Then you get to vote on what you think, which idea you think is most effective. The decider, who is usually your senior stakeholder, gets to make the ultimate decision about what gets taken forward. We have had instances where someday the decider has chosen their own idea, even though nobody else had voted on it. That's just something that you might have to deal with. But that is one of the reasons why at this stage, and this would be where we start to potentially deviate from the process, is that you stop and reflect at this stage. So if you're literally doing this by the book, you would do day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you're doing more creative ideas, then it's useful at this stage to take a day or 2. And what we would often recommend is we at this stage, take everything away for a couple of days and work up the ideas a little bit more. So actually think about, well, how does this fit in with the broader marketing strategy? How is this going to work from a channel perspective, our existing channel strategy? how could some of those ideas actually work together? So if you're thinking about a journey, some of the ideas might work from a kind of brand brand awareness perspective, some might be more activation-led. Doesn't mean that they can't all work together. So we would want a little bit of time to work them up and develop them a bit more. Then, on a Thursday, you are prototyping. This, if it's a digital journey, that can be quite straightforward. You're basically designing screens, and you've already spent some time storyboarding what those are. It is helpful to have somebody in the room at this point who is a designer of some description, who understands thinking about screens and flow and how you might lay that out in a usable way. If you're doing something a bit more creative, you can get creative with what you produce, because all you're doing is trying to make something to get feedback from your target consumers or target users. This was a campaign we did, and we literally videoed, this was one of the clients, on an iPhone, and made the video. He was at the lift in their offices asking people questions, and so we were videoing this all, and then we managed to edit it. Because there was about 4 or 5 of us, somebody was creating a fake landing page, somebody was editing the video, somebody was writing copy. Everybody had a different role, but you could literally do that in a day. It doesn't need to be perfect. You can create ad sets, so you can mock up what an advert would look like if it's more creative concepts. So anything to get across the idea. Any other examples of what we've done before? You could literally do a role play. You could map out a role play if you wanted.
I think the idea is not to get too attached. So you spend a day so that you don't get too attached to what you built, because you should be very willing to just chuck it in the bin if it doesn't perform particularly well. But that said, I would say on some occasions where we've kind of like had confidence in the output, we spent a couple of days doing the prototypes. One was we did with Cohesys to build an AR experience. So we took a letter from Credential and embedded a letter when you pointed the phone at it with a video clip and hotspots to go through to the website and interactive charts and so on. And that, we probably could have got it done in a day, but we took 2 days for that. But the idea is not to spend too long. My best example of a prototype, has anyone seen the video of a dad who puts a full screen video of a roller coaster on the TV and then shakes their kid around in a washing basket in front of it? That's prototyping. That's getting somebody to experience something without building it, and that's really what we're really kind of trying to do.
We haven't tried that yet. Yeah, I mean, this is the AR one was as much about a proof of concept, I guess, as it was about as proving to the business, to the technical people in the business, look, you can do this in like 48 hours. So it's quite good. And again, it's just an example of a landing page. This was, the concept about this one was about trust. So would people trust it as a proposition? And we mocked up a campaign basically, because we thought, well, if they're not going to go past this, then they won't trust it. So it was, again, just thinking a little bit creatively. Okay, I'm going to whiz through this because I'm at the 20 minutes already. Testing. Again, creative ideas. If you're testing, you're not trying to do usability testing. You're not even necessarily asking people to complete a task. You're trying to get their emotional reaction often. You're trying to see whether it would convince them to do whatever it is you want them to do. Because of that, you need to be a little bit careful with the questions that you're asking. I mean, this is meant to be more kind of guerrilla testing, not carefully designed research. But even so, asking someone if they like it is probably not going to do, because they'll want to be nice and say, oh yeah, it's great. You need to just be a little bit more considered. Okay, so this is just a very quick example of, you can use this process for global campaigns. This is one project we worked on beginning of this year with these guys. And this was for Expedia, and they were trying to convince, they had a partnership with Brand USA, they were trying to convince 200 million extra visitors to come to the US by 2020 from 4 different countries. The core creative idea for the digital aspect of the campaign, we came up with the idea in a Google Venture sprint within a week. We then did spend then 3 weeks doing a more technical proof of concept because we wanted to use binaural 3D audio, interactive video, a content hub that brought it all together. And there's quite a lot going on, so we needed to prove that we could actually do it first. But the idea itself, the idea that the group had come up with, so this is Expedia, brand new SA, their client, and us, it actually didn't test well. It didn't land with the target consumer. So we had to go back to the drawing board and take one of the other idea. Yeah.
Just run the middle bit of a sprint again, which you can you can break it down, just do those couple of days, prototype something again very quickly, test that, and that's what we went forward with.
Yeah, and then that worked really well. You get to the end of your week, what do you do next then? So it really depends on how it's tested. So with Expedia, it was, needs more thought. So we ran, as Nathan said, a couple of the days again. It might be just you need to reframe the question. Some of it worked, some of it didn't, so you need to rethink it. It could be you don't take it any further. You just say, you know what, that didn't work. Or it was okay, but the investment needed isn't going to be worth it, based on the outcome we've got. That is a good outcome, and that's, again, something that people really struggle to get their heads around at first. It's okay if this proves that it's not worth doing. You've saved yourself potentially hundreds of thousands, millions of pounds. Or you take it forward. So if it's something more digital, maybe more of a product, you might be planning it into your sprint zero. If it's something more creative, you might be then stepping back and actually thinking about how you make the thing, whatever that thing is. So you probably tell that we love sprints. It's about answering those big questions first. So rather than say, will this work? Or actually going ahead without asking whether it will work, it avoids that. It's democratic. So everybody gets involved. It shouldn't be the highest paid person in the room whose decision gets to take forward, or a creative director. So in an agency, the way this would have worked in the past is your creative director would have sold in the idea, the team will have been working on it for weeks, the agency doesn't want to redo it because that costs them money, and it's really then that's what it's about ego and it's about saving money, etc. So this process means everybody's bought into the idea. And it's efficient and fun, so you do it in a fast and therefore cost-efficient way by getting the right people in the room. So very quickly, 3 tips to finish on. Trust the process. Although I've talked about hacking the process a little bit, I would recommend only doing that once you've run it a few times. You will always panic in the morning, thinking that you don't know what you're going to do, or you're not going to get to where you want to get to. But by the end of the day, everybody's always celebrating and really happy with what they're doing. So I would just say, stick to the process. Get aligned. Make sure everybody in the room knows why they're there, what they need to do. Everybody, literally down to, are we standing up at this point? Are we sitting down at this point? Are we going to use Post-it notes? Just literally plan it like a military operation. And have fun. So drink loads of water, eat healthy snacks. This is one of my things. Don't eat burritos or pizza at lunchtime, Nathan. Because what you find is literally it's quite intense and you're at it 5 days. So if everybody's binging on chocolate and biscuits and then eating kind of big starchy lunches, you find that your afternoon is really low energy and you don't have time for low energy. So yeah, keep everybody's energy up. But most importantly, think big. So this process means it forces you to think really, really big. So we would definitely encourage that. That's it.